Create mod add-ons. I got a bunch of comments in my first ranking video, go watch that after this if you haven't already, about how I missed a lot of major add-ons, so I thought I'd swing back and cover them. I'm gonna be honest, it was definitely because I have Create installed on Fabric and I didn't want to make a bunch of new installations on CurseForge. Once again, I'm not really gonna be showcasing the mods, the video is just gonna be me dumping my opinions. Anyway, yeah, enjoy. This mod, along with the Factory Must Grow, were by far the most requested from the last episode. Create Estrogen, unsurprisingly, adds estrogen, along with a bunch of other random stuff. This mod is so unserious. Initially, this mod was gonna go straight into the D tier, but I'm not gonna lie, after playing around with it a bit, it's kind of grown on me. Most of the other Create mod add-ons are so complex, and it's actually kind of nice having one that doesn't take itself as seriously. And despite 90% of its features being basically useless, it does actually add some gameplay altering stuff. The stockings are pretty cool. I like how they negate fall damage because it gives you a genuine reason to engage with this mod, and on top of that, you can express your identity, which is pretty neat. Look, this mod isn't anything crazy, but I did genuinely enjoy messing around with it. It was fun, and because that's literally the entire point of playing Minecraft, I'm probably gonna put it higher than it should be. B tier. I got many strong-worded comments on the first video about not including this add-on. The Factory Must Grow above all adds oil and electricity to the Create mod. The main purpose of TFMG, in my opinion, is to fill one of the holes in the Create mod. And we're going to talk about the oil part first, because I already kind of went through the pros and cons of electricity in the first episode, not that I don't have anything to say about it. By adding oil, you're essentially able to have a transportable source of stress, and yes, while you can do this with electricity technically, it is a lot easier with a liquid as you can move this stuff freely around your world via trains and other contraptions. This also works really well in conjunction with the Valkyrian Skies mods, because it gives you a compact way of producing a lot of stress, which is perfect for boats and planes. The way you extract the oil and separate it into its constituents is also pretty cool. Crude oil, which is the stuff you get from your pump jacks, is then separated into 6 different fuels, which each have their own properties. You can then store these fuels in fluid tanks and use them accordingly, which can come in pretty handy, as with the alternative endgame power generation method being steam engines, you have to discharge SU straight away, otherwise you're burning fuel for no reason. With the engines from this add-on, you have more control over when you actually want to use your fuel. I can see this being very useful on a server to prevent lag. Distributing oil across the server means not everyone has to generate their own SU. Now, let's talk about the electricity part of this mod. In my opinion, the electricity in this add-on is somehow better than both New Age and Crafts and Additions. To me, it feels like they retained the best parts of both mods and added more. TFMG adds voltage. If you try to power something with too high of a voltage, it will explode. To counteract this, you now need to incorporate resistors or transformers into your electricity builds, which makes building with this mod just that much more immersive. If you like the storing energy aspect of New Age, you can also do that with this mod, using the accumulator and capacitor. Oh, and it adds 2 new potato guns and a flamethrower. Yeah, this mod is dope. S tier. I absolutely can't believe I forgot this add-on in the first episode. Create Trackwork is basically the ground-based vehicle equivalent of Create Clockwork, and it kinda suffers from the same problems. This mod has come a long way, but I would still say it's maybe not as polished as Clockwork, not that Clockwork is polished by any means. Some aspects just feel a little unfinished right now. With that being said, however, there are definitely a lot of features that this mod has over Clockwork. Firstly, it is so much more accessible. Now, it just kind of inherently has to be because you're working with cars and tanks and not planes, and you don't really have to worry about lift and shit. But even so, making your car do simple operations like turning is really intuitive, which I really appreciate because they could have easily made it really complicated and annoying, and then argued that it was for realism's sake. I'm curious to see where they take this mod in the future, and when this, along with Clockwork, are a little more polished, it'll be really cool to use them in combination, because right now taxiing your planes is really awkward. Also, unrelated note, we should definitely get a water-related Valkyrian Skies add-on to complete the trio. This mod is good. Once again, for its creative potential alone, it definitely deserves a place in the higher tiers. However, like I said before, this add-on sadly has the same problems as Clockwork, as in its current state, it's a little too buggy and unpolished to be at the top. A tier. Create Railways Navigator is a great addition. Above all, it adds these new display panels that you can use on your stations or trains that display real-time information about where your trains are at and going. The vanilla Create display boards are great, but trust me, if you've never played with this edition, you'll be surprised at how much information can fit into one of these boards. This mod adds so little, but it makes your world just feel so much more alive. And additionally, it also adds a phone, which you can use to schedule your train journeys. The coolest thing about this item is that it works like a real train navigator app, in the sense that it also tracks transfers. And if you're playing on a server with a lot of trains, this mod is definitely a must-have. Even if you're playing by yourself, this mod is just fun to have. You will definitely spend more time than you think looking at the display boards. A tier. Create Numismatics is a multiplayer add-on that attempts to streamline the economy. Usually in a survival server, you'd opt for something like diamonds, but I guess when you're playing with something like the Create mod, where chances are you're probably going to be automating diamonds, this doesn't really work. This add-on adds vendor blocks, bank accounts, and many more finance-related things. Having a block that acts as a shop is super useful because now you don't have to worry about setting up a complicated redstone system or people robbing you, but I guess we kind of have that now from Create 0.6 too. The biggest problem with this mod is that you have to manually distribute the currency. And yes, I'm aware that if you were able to craft it, people would just make crazy factories and monkey have 2 banana worth less and all that. But with that being said, I think there's just a few fundamental problems with this mod. The only place I see it working is on some kind of large scale server. Like, I'm talking hundreds of people, because using this on a server with the homies probably won't work out that well. Like, you'd maybe have to manually give each player a certain amount at the start, but then like, you'd have to constantly keep an eye out and moderate the economy when it goes wrong, before probably just resorting to another form of currency anyway. Look, I've never played on a server with this mod, so realistically I wouldn't know. I just don't think it would work that well. C tier. Create Destroy is a chemistry-based extension, and it brings so much content. Honestly, I wasn't even aware that this add-on existed before reading your comments in the last video, and after playing around and familiarizing myself with it, I have a lot to say. First of all, this add-on is really cool. There's so much attention to detail in this mod, to the point where if you've ever taken a chemistry class in your life, this add-on will probably induce some trauma. With that being said, it is very fun to mess around with mixing chemicals, and when you finally complete a recipe, it's incredibly satisfying. Obviously, chemical synthesis is simplified a bit, but I mean, like, it's still pretty hard. This leads me to my second point. This mod is so complicated. Usually when Create mod add-ons are made, the developer finds a middle ground between realism and simplicity. Take Create Clockwork for an example. If it was too realistic, then no one in the community would be able to design a plane. This mod definitely leans more into the realism side, which isn't necessarily a bad thing, it just means it's not very beginner friendly. You're definitely gonna need some kind of tutorial to play this one, but hey, if you like having the learning curve, then it's not really a problem. My only real issue with this add-on is that while it adds a lot of content, it doesn't really add that much content. From what I've seen, most of the molecules don't really have a purpose yet, and while there are a few things that I could see being useful in a playthrough, I just don't think they're worth the hassle. This mod is still in early development, so obviously more content is going to be added, which is exciting because I genuinely think this mod already has the background it needs to be an absolute must-have in Create mod packs. Once more content is introduced that's a little more synonymous with vanilla Create, there's so much potential for this to be a great add-on, but currently as it stands, you can't really do much with it right now. B tier. Although if you're into chemistry, I would definitely recommend checking this one out. This add-on is so underrated. Create Northstar adds space travel to Create. Now, this isn't a new concept to modded Minecraft or anything. Galactic Craft has been around for, well, basically forever at this point. But it's just cool to see a feature like this integrated into the Create mod. Obviously, being able to design your own rockets is a lot more fun and rewarding than just placing an item down. I also like how you're able to walk around your rocket in space. This is such a small detail, but I think it makes the whole thing feel so much more immersive, as you're not just sitting through an animation. This mod looks incredibly daunting at first. There are so many different items that you have to think about, but I actually think it's pretty intuitive. It kind of holds your hand through a lot of the rocket creating process, which is nice. It does, however, lack a ponder feature, which definitely would have been helpful, but it's not the end of the world. All the planets have their own respective ores and mobs, which I also think is a cool detail because it means that they're not all copy and paste. This is nice because it actually encourages you to visit them. Personally, I think this mod is insane, and I'm surprised it's not talked about that much. I feel like this one kind of flew under the radar for a lot of mod packs. Maybe it's because space travel feels a little out of place for Minecraft? I don't know. Not gonna lie, this mod kind of hits the right spot for me. There's something about the idea of building your own rocket and then using it to explore different planets that's just so cool to me. And the greatest part is that the recipes in this mod actually feel well thought out. They're not crazy expensive or particularly annoying either. It's also in a much more polished state than other mods like Clockwork and Trackwork. So for that, I'm actually gonna give this one an S tier. There are so many chunk loading mods in the Create Mod add-on world. I just thought this time around I'd include one because I think everyone plays with at least one of them installed. Create Power Loading adds a chunk loader to the game. That's kind of it. This specific mod is special though because I think it integrates the block much better than some other mods. What I also like about this specific mod is that you can put it on a train station, and when a train arrives at a given station, the chunks will load. This is a great addition because obviously portable storages and fluid interfaces don't work in unloaded chunks, and this is kind of the only downside to trains. However, installing a mod like this is kind of a double-edged sword. The more you have, the laggier your world is gonna be. It might sound like a good idea putting one of these in your factory district, until you actually do it. I would say the position this mod is placed on the tier list is directly proportional to how good your PC is. With that being said, I always have this mod installed and don't really end up using it that much. You can definitely survive without a chunk loader. C tier. Vanilla food can get pretty boring, so it's nice to have alternatives. What I like about this specific add-on is that it really goes above and beyond and adds so much food. This mod is a double add-on for the Create mod and Farmer's Delight, and acts as a great intersection between the two. Since the Create mod is almost always played with Farmer's Delight, having a mod that's specifically designed with the items and mechanics from both mods in mind is great. My favorite thing about this mod is that it's just so satisfying. You would think making different foods with these insane crafting trees would feel tedious, but it's really not. All the recipes are fun to craft manually or to automate. Once this mod is updated to Create 0.6, I can see people making some absolute crazy food factories with the new factory gorges. It's also worth mentioning that some of the food items give potion effects, which is nice, but in my opinion it's not really the main point of this add-on. Above all, it just gives you options and makes what is usually quite a mundane part of Minecraft a lot more fun. A tier. And that's all the add-ons I picked out for this video. I'm aware that it was a little top heavy this episode, and that's mainly because most Create add-ons that exist are pretty good. At least the popular ones are anyway. Let me know in the comments what you guys thought and what I should rank next. And if you enjoyed the video, I really recommend checking out my survival series. Personally, I think those videos are a lot more well made than these ranking ones. Anyway, that's all from me. Bye bye.